All right, Shabbat Shalom, Israel, Shabbat Shalom. I hope everyone is doing well and feeling rested this Shabbat day because it is the seventh day that Yah commanded us to rest. How y'all doing today? Good. Yeah, apparently coming in good, great, wonderful. Thank you for the report. Hey, everybody. Of course, this is Elder Doug with tonight's edition of Blog Talk Radio here for Straitway Ministries, and this is going to be part two and hopefully the conclusion on balance. As we, of course, I talked to y'all about, 3 weeks ago. Okay, good. Thank you all. Yeah, Brother Ugly, always one up. Thank you, Brother Ugly, for the 11. Anyway, blessings, y'all. Of course, as always, Yah had favor on us today and showed his love with a wonderful message. Straightforward, get rid of the idols, get rid of all the things from before you that cause the love that you're supposed to have for the Most High to be focused on other things and areas of your life. And these things ought not to be so because, as Pastor said, Yah is a jealous Yah. And this fits right into the context of being out of balance or having an imbalance in this kingdom, in this way, this walk, because as you all know, and I'm sure you've heard it quoted before plenty of times in Proverbs, that Yah hates a false balance. So what does it mean to have a false balance? I mean, what's the detriment? If it's something that Yah hates, it's definitely something that we need to focus on, grasp hold of, and correct, because nobody who's a righteous, looking for the kingdom Israelite desires to be entangled in a false balance or representing false ways. So with that, again, this is pretty lengthy. It's going to be probably the 2 hours here, but I think I'm going to try and complete it. And again, as y'all know, that my format usually is a whole lot of scripture, a whole lot of word, and a few things in between there. And of course, right out the gate, thank you, Brother Ugly, as always, for being so diligent in your labors to post it. And of course, Brother Steve, Sister Wenda, always for your labor of love in the, tackling the website and keeping sure these things stay up and running. And of course, all the saints that are with me tonight, you're all beloved brothers and sisters, and I sure appreciate y'all honoring me with joining me tonight for this edition. So with that, we're going to get right on to this and continue on in balances. Now, in part one, we went over the definitions of what the word balance meant, and it basically just means a scale. If you look behind it in the Hebrew, it's just exactly what it is. It's a scale. So when you hear the term balance, it's something that, we think of a literal scale, but what a literal scale does is it shows equality, or gives us a measurement of equality, what things are equal and true. And we talked about measures, we talked about a few other things, so I wasn't going to go back up into that too much in the second part here, so I encourage you to go back and listen to part one, and you'll hear the full definitions, or, go look them up yourself, because they're available to everybody. All right, hallelujah. All right. Again, in part one, we talked about balance in our daily work, our regular labor of our hands over a 24-hour period. And then we talked about the balance that we need to have as Israelites between our commitments on our day-to-day lives and then spending time with the Father and those things that enhance our relationship with Him. And we talked about them two things again. That's in part one. So we're going to cover a few more topics tonight that relate directly, of course, to us as Israelites and what it means to be whole and to carry a true and just balance before the Most High. So with that, we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to go start in the book of Micah, chapter 6, verses 8 through 13. Micah chapter 6, verses 8 through 13. Alrighty. It says, He has showed me, O man, what is good. And of course, the one that was shown to Micah was by the Most High. The Most High showed Micah these things, O man, what is good, and what the Most High requires of thee, but to do justly. These are the things that are good. These are the things that Yah requires of us. But to do justly or justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy Yah. The Most High's voice crieth unto the city, so why is it cry? And the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it? So who is appointed the rod? The one that's crying, which is the Most High. And yet there are treasures of wickedness in the house of wicked, and the scant measure is abominable. And these are the words of the Father here. Shall I count them pure with the wicked balances, and with the bag of deceitful weights? Well, of course not. The answer is no. Yah is not going to do that. What the Most High is saying is that should he or would he use scales, which are designed and been tampered with, to read falsely in favor of the wicked and use the same measure of standards that the wicked use against others to present a just and innocent balance? Of course he's not going to do that. He's not going to represent a balance, something that's supposed to be pure in his eyes, by using the same tactics and the devices that the wicked use. Verse 12, for the rich men thereof are full of violence, and this is why their scales are unequally balanced, or wickedly balanced by the bag of deceitful weights. For the rich men thereof are full of violence, and the habits thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. They can't be trusted at all. There's nothing there at all that a man can actually take any type of trust or credibility in. Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, and making thee desolate because of thy sins. Again, who's the one that cries out? Who's the one that has the rod? Who's appointed the Most High? And the end of these wicked folks that use this deceitful weights to bring the poor into bondage, to lay lies before just men. These are the ones that the Most High is going to smite and make desolate because of this sin. All right, Matthew chapter 7. Remember, we're talking about balance, having a balance in judgment, right judgment, proper judgment. So Micah 6 is a demonstration of how Yah determines what a right balance is, and that he will never allow a false balance. A false balance belongs to the wicked. So let's go to Matthew chapter 7, verses 1 and 2. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 and 2. And the Messiah says, judge not that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, you shall be judged. And with what measure ye mete, it shall be measured to you again. So whatever you present, or whatever weight carries behind the judgment that you present in whatever the situation, again, because it's a spiritual law, it's going to get meet back to you at some point and time. It may be immediately, it may be down the road, but all the years that I've been in this, I've never seen this fail. This is a just, true, and spiritual law, and the word of Yah does not go out void. All right, the word meet, as used in Matthew chapter 7, verse 2, is the Greek 3354, and it's pronounced metrio. It's from the Greek 3358. It just means to measure. By implication, to add measure, that is a lot. By rule, figurative, to estimate, measure, meet. So whatever measure you estimate, or whatever thing that you determine is the proper amount of judgment to be handed out. All right, and it comes from the Greek 3358, which is metron, which I think it's actually the word for meter. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Apparently, primary word, a measure, meter, literally or figuratively, by implication, a limited portion, degree, measure. So that's where we get with whatever measure you allocate, whatever measure you estimate, that same thing is put back again to you because of the spiritual law. And in the Messiah, you can obviously see that he spoke this is not that we're not supposed to judge, but the simple fact is, be temperate, be wise, be careful in the judgments that you do mete out, because whatever spirit or whatever focus your energy is on the judgment, it's going to come back on your own head. All right, John, book of John, chapter 7, verse 24. John 7:24. And the Messiah says again, this is kind of just a repeat in the Gospels, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. One of the biggest spirits that are responsible for this judging in court appearance is the spirit of accusation. I mean, a lot of times we believe we see something on somebody because of their facial gesture, by something that looks unusual, out of place, and automatically, because the outward man is wicked and he's capable of doing the same type of thing, he'll automatically place that same type of judgment according to what he meets out in his mind. But here Jesus said, judge not according to appearance, because a lot of times there's things that we don't understand about the situation. So, a wise man, he doesn't speak until the time is right, okay? So that's a good way to practice wisdom. Now, some things are just obvious, and you can tell right off. You got some madman out there screaming his head off for no reason at all. Well, that's obvious that, that there is nothing there outside the appearance which is actual and factual, so you deal with the situation. But other things, you see a brother and sister, talking someplace maybe where you don't think they should be, but you don't know the situation. You can go on with a whole bunch of different ideas and demonstrations of that, but I'll leave that all up to you to think on that. Anyway, Mark chapter 4, verse 24 and 25. Mark 4, 24 and 25. Again, the words of the Messiah. And he said unto them, he's talking to the disciples, take heed what you hear. Okay, now pay attention to what's coming into your ears. With what measure you meet, it shall be measured to you. And unto you that hear shall more be given. So why is he telling us take heed to what you hear? All right? Because there's something to do with the balance of the weights here and in the measures. It's not what you say, not what you see, but again, it's what you hear. The one thing Yah is looking for when he comes back to establish his kingdom once again is faith. And faith comes by hearing. So take heed what we listen to and how we hear it. For listening to the voice of truth will lend to increase, but listening to the voice of error will, of course, cause loss and cause a man to go back, you might throw a stumbling block before your brother in his path, that sort of thing. And, it was just verse 25. For he that hath, to him shall be given, and he that hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he has. So again, take heed to what you hear and how it affects you, and how it might alter what you think, and how you might place a judgment, what measure in whatever application may be that you can be inclined to give out, because according to those things that you've let into your ear and that you may allow to push you away that you shouldn't be going. Remember, if it's good things, if it's increase, if it's fruit, you'll be given more. But if it's in the way of wickedness, like becoming a garbage can, and you allow a large measure of garbage to come to you, even those things that were the truth and are bright shall slowly be taken away or replaced by something else. Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. Matthew 23:23. And the Messiah says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought you have done, and not to leave the other undone. So again, here is a perfect demonstration of a false balance. Only focusing on one area of holiness and the requirements and the things that we need to know to be well-rounded and to become pure and perfect, only to talk about part of the things and leave the other things undone or unspoken for whatever reason. Pastors demonstrated that many times. Here, if you've got somebody that's a glutton, he won't speak about being a glutton because he's going to be telling on himself, or somebody that's in adultery, or somebody that's, you can come up with any type of thing. But the fact of the matter is, and especially as most of you know, and I don't know about if that counts the guests, but everybody that's been with this ministry for any length of time knows that how well-rounded Yah has provided for the people here in this part of the Straitway ministry, that we cover all matters of things, and of course, especially pastor. He isn't afraid to speak on anything. He may not be speaking anything in the time frame we believe that he should be, but the fact of the matter is, if it's from Yah, it will be spoken on when the time is right. So, all right, let me see. Ezekiel chapter 45, verses 9 and 10. Ezekiel 45, verses 9 and 10. Again, talking about having a just balance or a right balance in judgment. Thus saith Yahweh the Elohim, let it suffice you, all princes of Israel. So Yah is directing this through the prophet Ezekiel to the princes or rulers. The rulers in Israel. Remove violence and spoil, execute judgment and justice, take away your exactions from my people, saith Yahweh the Elohim. So he's giving them direction. He's saying, this is what you're doing currently, and you need to stop it. All right, and we see a really good demonstration of that in the book of Nehemiah. All right, verse 10, you shall have just balances and a just ephah and a just bath. Again, Yah hates a false balance. He hates people being cheated, being taken advantage of, and especially by those that are in positions of authority. And obviously, if it's somebody in authority, they're doing it for their own personal selfish gain. And Yah is going to reprove this, make it known, rebuke it. And if you have somebody that's in authority continues to act this way, of course, Yah is going to remove them. All right, the word exactions is... where in the world I get... this definition probably came from from my Oxford English Dictionary, but because it didn't have a very good definition in the Strong's Hebrew Lexicon. So I got this out of my Oxford 1919 Dictionary, and the word exactions, as we find in Ezekiel 45:9, means exacting something, thing exacted, illegal or exorbitant demands. So asking for too much, demanding for too much, taking that which is more than necessary. Extortion, and that's, exaction is just plain on extortion. Arbitrary and excessive impost. We can do the same thing with one for another when we demand more out of somebody than what we demand out of our own self. This, again, is practicing an unjust balance in the body, and it's an unjust judgment. All right, the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, again, as you know me, I usually use Sirach to don't get it confused with Ecclesiastes. But Sirach chapter 42, verses 1 through 7. All right, 42, 1 through 7, verse 1. Of these things be not thou ashamed, and accept no person to sin thereby. So right away we start out with a warning in verse 1. These things that were just about to be listed, don't be ashamed of them, don't take any shame in them, and don't accept any person to allow you to sin or to cause you to go into sin. Don't ever allow yourself to feel ashamed for standing up for the truth, and don't allow anyone to sway you from that which is right. Verse 2, of the law of the Most High, okay, this is one of the first things you shouldn't be ashamed of, is the law of the Most High, and His covenant, and of judgment to justify the ungodly, of reckoning with thy partners and travelers. So if you're having situations with a business partner or some business measure, something that's going on between two brothers, and there needs to be a reckoning. Don't be ashamed to approach the situation and hash it out and get it taken care of, get it behind you, because all it can do is further gender to strife, and more confusion. Or of the gift of the heritage of friends. So if somebody wants to give you something, don't practice this form of this false humility that we learn from Christianity, where you have to act like, no, that's okay, thank you, I appreciate it. But, if somebody's trying to bless you with something, and it's from their heart, take it sincerely, take it humbly. So don't be ashamed of the gift of the heritage of thy friends. All right, verse 4, of exactness of balance and weights, don't be ashamed of this, and accept no person to change or allow you to remove yourself from presenting a true and just balance in whatever the measure is, all right? Of getting much or little. There's got to be a just balance with anything, with any amount, in the little things and in the great things. Whatever your situation, just be content with such as you have, whether it's little or much, and then balance that. And of merchants indifferent selling, of much correction of children, don't be ashamed to do this, and accept no person to tell you otherwise, and to make the side of an evil servant to bleed. Sure keeping is good where an evil wife is, and shut up where many hands are. So keep your evil wife shut up or put her out or something. Anyway, verse 7. Deliver all things in number and weights. All things. There's no exception. All things. And put all in writing that thou givest out or receivest in. Way back then they were practicing forms of contract. Just making a log or a record. All right. Our nature at birth was that of the natural, carnal, iniquitous, and sinful man. You know, we're born in an imbalance, having the nature to operate in that which was evil as well as good, but with the Most High, a just balance is only seen as all good. A man cannot operate in the flesh nature, the inherited evil, unconverted nature, and so these things which are good, and say that he is balanced. So you can't continue to be on both sides of the fence. For evil has no balance. There's not a balance with evil. No equality of the scales. Its nature is always one which uses unequal weights. For you can never gain by operating in the nature of the devil, ever. In other words, one can never mete out evil in hopes of gaining an equal portion of evil. There is no possibility of improvement, no possibility to become better by using evil to gain good, no possibility of bringing the scales into a just balance. You know, our equality comes when we always operate in the good, when we always walk in the spirit man. That's how we bring ourselves into a just, equal balance. The Pharisees accused the Messiah of making himself equal with Yah, but the fact is, how did they come to that observation? We're going to look at that real quickly here. All right, back in the book of John, chapter 5, verses 18 and 19. Therefore the Jews sought the more to kill him, because he had not only broken the Sabbath, but he said that Yah was his father, making himself equal with Yahweh. That's quite a boast there, and that's quite a comparison. Then answered Jesus and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father do, for what things soever he doeth, these also the Son likewise. And quickly, the definition for the word equal is the Greek 2470, and that's used in verse 18. And it's probably from the Greek 1492 through the idea of seeming like, or, but it means similar in amount or kind. So making himself, Jesus, the Jews were saying that Jesus was making himself similar or in the same amount or the same type of pattern or kind that Yah was, or they understood Yah to be. It also means agree as much, equal, like. Jesus called, the Messiah called Yah his father, not his brother, and yet the Son had the same measure of equality because the Messiah went about doing that which the Father had commanded and expected of him, because he was a son and represented for the Father's kingdom. All that Jesus did was a representation and a demonstration of the will of Yah to and for his people, and that's Israel. That is, one people we would apply those talents given us and bring about the healing amongst our people. When the Father gives us a talent, he gives us a gift and ability to, the measurement mete out from the gift is never realized until we have managed to meet back the measure given to us. And let me demonstrate this a little bit, to bring a little more clarity to this, because a lot of times before I do a broadcast, I'll sit down and I'll read and try to get some clarity, and then I have to type it down because it just helps me remember. That's just the way my scripture studies go, but that's just the way I do it. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that we're going to be, Matthew chapter 25. I'm not going to read it. I got in my notes that you all know it's the parable of the talents. Well, we know in the story of the parable of the talents that there was 3 servants, and each of the 3 were given different amounts to begin with, and they all successfully, 2 of the 3 anyway, were able to meet back the same amount that they were given, except for the last one, who didn't do anything with his gift, left it void, and of course you know what the judgment was of him. And so let's take a practical demonstration of that. Let's take the gift of healing, okay? if Yah has, you've asked for the gift of healing, if Yah has bestowed upon you the gift of healing in measure, of course, because we're not the Messiah, but it's in a measure that it's the amount that He needs you to have to use for the kingdom. And what I'm saying here is this talent, this gift that He's given to you, you have no idea how much you have to lay hands on the sick and command healing in the name of Jesus to actually balance the scale, because you don't know how long you have to go with the gift of healing to actually, how many people you have to lay hands on to actually repay back the talent, or to present back to Yah in equal measure. I hope that's making sense. So, and of course, the answer is a lifetime. If you may have to lay hands on, Yah may direct you to lay hands on 1,000 people, and then He might take you out of this world. Where if you're obedient every time to the command and do as He gave you the gift to build with the talent or with the gift or with the ability, whatever it may be, and by the time He takes you out and you've been obedient to that which He's commanded you to do, you've actually been able to balance the scale. So you've got yourself a just balance. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, hallelujah. All right, we're going to go on to a balance in words. And again, backing up, you can apply that to anything. You can buy it with the gift of helps. You can apply that to miracles. You can apply that to building trades, anything like that. But whatever Yah has given us as a gift or an ability for the kingdom, provided for the body, this is something we must, because we're given it by measure, and we don't know when that measure is completely restored until the breath goes out of our body. So we have to keep applying ourselves to meet that measure. All right, anyway, going on. Balance in words and the things we speak. We all speak of many things on a daily basis. Every time we open our mouths, our words are weighed in the balance. Are we speaking those things that encourage, that edify, that admonish, that instruct and give positive, assuring words, or do we have tendencies to create destructive, negative environments? How often have we read and seen of actual happenings of those who destroy a just balance among the body by speaking words of death and destruction? How is it that we soon forget that we are going to have to account for every idle word, for every misleading doctrine, for every false witness that proceeds from out of our mouths? A just balance of words also relates to having temperance in one's speech. Now, flat out, some men just can't keep their mouths from running. They just got to continually speak. They always have something to say about all and everything, subject matter experts on all topics. These are they who willfully volunteer their perspective and opinion about any and everything. And like the Bible says, only fools utter all their mind. But those which have learned to be slow to speak and careful of those things which proceed out of their mouths are counted as wise, because they take account what's actually coming. They're speaking. It's just not to be heard. You know what I'm saying? So we have to create a just balance in what we speak, that they're always words of edification, always words of life, always words that, even an admonishment, a reproof or rebuke are always words of edification, because they're there to help restore somebody in a false balance. All right, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 10 through 12. 1 Peter 3, 10 through 12. All right, for he that will love life, if you have a will to love life and see good days, Peter says, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips that they speak no guile. So if you actually want to see an increase in your life and good days, start practicing these things. If you don't, if you have a problem with them, get some deliverance, figure out what's going on. This is, also when you think about honoring thy mother and father, this is another promise that when children do this, their days shall be extended. They shall be long days. So it's something that's coming from the mouth. Verse 11, let him eschew evil and do good, let him seek peace and ensue it. For the eyes of Yah are over the righteous, and his ears are open unto their prayers, but the face of Yah is against them that do evil. So again, now we're talking about having a balance, a just and right balance in the things that we speak. All right, back in the book of Sirach and the Apocrypha, chapter 21, verse 25. The lips of talkers will be telling such things as pertain not unto them. They're talking about everybody else's situations, what everybody else is doing wrong, being busybodies in everybody else's matter. But the words of such as have understanding are weighed in the balance. Why? Why is that? The people that have understanding, their words have credibility, the words have merit, so people are going to stand, they're going to sit up, they're going to take notice, they're going to give heed when people that present themselves as being righteous, as being pure, as not being just running their mouth, not speaking evil, just doing whatever just to be heard. They're actually is counted as wise men. So when they speak, a wise man yet will consider the things that are coming out of their mouth, and they'll actually get the balance or weigh what they're hearing. Is it the truth or not? But a fool and somebody that runs their mouth, most of the time people don't even give them the time of day or consider, because it becomes so oppressive, and just it's actually spirit that drives you out of there, because it can only take so much of this. I don't know what you want to call it. Just what does the world call it? Something getting in my space. That's what they call it. I'm going to stay out of my space now. You don't understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 20 and 21. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 20 and 21. All right, this is Solomon writes. He said, "Have not I written to thee excellent things, in counsels and knowledge?" So, man, I gave you some good stuff here, Solomon is saying. That I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth, that thou mightest answer the words of truth to them that send unto thee. Certainty. The word certainty in the 21st verse is Hebrews 71:89, koshet, from the unused root meaning to balance, equity as evenly weighed, that is reality, certainly truth. So that I help me, Jesus, that I might make thee know the balance of the words of truth, or the righteousness, or the weight that true words carry, okay? And that's basically just echoing or building off of what we just got done reading here in Sirach. The Apostle Peter tells us to be ready to give every man an answer of the hope that lies within us, and that hope is Christ. But what if we have not pressed to comprehend and to know the more excellent things, such as the words of truth and of life? We then would lack those things to say to others whom we may meet in this life, and lack the ability to help bring into balance someone else's life by speaking words of truth. Well, if we don't apply ourselves to understanding excellent things and counsels and knowledge by the things that are preached and taught here, we're not going to have any words of hope, of life, of peace, of justice, judgment, all the things that make for a well-rounded, balanced Hebrew Israelite life. These more excellent things. All right, back in the book of Sirach, chapter 28, verse 24 through 26. Look that thou hedge thy possession about with thorns, and bind up thy silver and gold. Go to great lengths to protect those things which have great importance. And weigh thy words in a balance, and make a door and a bar for thy mouth. Where thou slide not by it, lest thou fall before him that lieth in wait. There are always those who will, if one allows, will take from you those precious things that you've labored for, such as your peace, your humility, righteousness, and of course all the fruit of the Spirit. The devil, he's a roaring lion. He's always going about seeking to tempt us with our words. He tempts us to get us to let our guards down, to speak those things which may allow demonic spirits, to gain access to what those things we call our treasures, the fruits of the Spirit being our treasures. How often have you ever encountered those which will challenge the truth of Christ, which is in you? Never allow yourselves to be placed in a position of having to justify to others your beliefs if they are founded in the truth and not fairy tales and fantasies. Like when people eat off other tables. We must take heed to what we hear, for the devil will take false words and lying doctrines and press one in his mind to finally give voice to those things, and then comes in doubt and unbelief, and of course more bad company. Take heed to what things you allow to come out of your mouth. Keep a lock on your lips. Keep the doors, a door and a bar, or a bar on the door of your mouth. Okay, just take heed, be attentive to whatever you're allowing. Think first before you speak. What Pastor say the other night about you don't just know. He's actually in the dining hall preaching. That's where it come under my mind. But he said that the problem is with us is that instead of Sister Carol said this. I'm sorry, I finally got it in my head. Sorry about that. But on the sister's blog talk, that don't allow the first thought that enters in your head to come out of your lips. Capture it, hold it, think about what you're about ready to say. Give it some thought because every man is right in his own mind, right in his own eyes. So the first thing that we're so well trained that the first thing that comes out, we automatically think it's satisfactory or it's allowable to speak. But no, take captive, take that thought captive, that desire to speak, and measure it, weigh it in the balance. Is it good? What's it going to build? Is it going to add anything to anybody? And if it's just meant there for self-justification, to hear my pity patty, well, it could be 1,000 other things. What's the sense in saying it for? If it's going to cause, it's like throwing a rock in a calm water. Once that rock or that whatever that thought comes out of your mouth, that rock hits the water, well, then you cause a ripple effect to everybody else around. So just be careful what you got coming to your mind before you speak it. All right, Matthew chapter 12, verse 34 through 37. And again, this is talking about using our words to balance our spirits, to be presented just balance and a right balance as representatives of Yah and for the King. O generation of vipers, did I say, Matthew chapter 12, verses 34 through 37, if I didn't say that. O generation of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? So how can you? What's the possibility when you're evil? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart bringeth forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure bringeth forth evil things. But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So speak those things that lend themselves to justification. So when you stand before the Most High, He can say, good and well done. Those things that you spoke to to your brothers and sisters, to those that are without, that they were words of life. They were words of edification, not words that would lead people the wrong way, lead them astray, plant wicked and evil seeds, that sort of thing. All right, going on to balance in the body as an assembly. Balance in the body. And good to have you all in the room tonight. Balance in the body, Ephesians chapter 4. Ephesians 4, verses 14 through 16. And this is what the Apostle Paul Shaul wrote to the church at Ephesus. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine. And we're talking about balance in the body and amongst the saints as one people, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie in wait to deceive. But speaking the truth in love, we may grow up into Him in all things, which is the head, even Christ, from whom the whole body, who's the whole body fitly joined together? It's from Christ, and compacted by that which every joint supplieth, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part. So every part has a certain measure it has to present, and it has to perform. For what? Making increase of the body unto the edifying of itself in love. It's continual work by each and every part unto edification, a certain measure, a certain amount of input by whatever measure's been meted out that has to be returned back to the body so we can increase as a body unto love, on the edification to come to a pure love one for another. We are creatures born to routines and habits, and when these things are interrupted from outside elements entering and upsets our established comfortable balances. And everybody can relate to that because if you got a 9 to 5 job or whatever the case, I'm just using an example. You have a certain routine. Everybody has a routine. They wake up at a certain time. They brush their teeth at a certain time. They sit on the toilet at a certain time. They take a shower, pack their lunch, get in the car. It's the same thing day in day. So when we have a routine that we're focused on, that makes us comfortable, that we have security, and all of a sudden that thing is breached somehow, it creates an imbalance in our life. So, we have to go outside of our comfort zones. We have to, in order to deal with and reestablish the balance. It can be and has been and will probably continue to be a very challenging thing every time there's a new people added to the assembly. It's just a fact because, the ones that are new, the babes, as the Bible calls them, you're used to talking. We have certain levels that we can speak to each other, especially those that have been in the faith for a while. And so when new people come in, you have to get out of your comfort zone, what you're used to, and actually in order to support the weaker brother or sister, condescend the men of lower estate. That's how we support one another and actually present our measure we've been given in the body to add strength to the body, because you're trying to bring the weak up instead of letting the weak bring you down. So there has to be a time to establish a body. We've been seeing it here at the ministry for years, that every time y'all add something to us, and as they grow with us and we grow with them, as we know each other, we're creating a unity every single time. And as Pastor said many times, that the group we have right now, the assembly, Straitway Ministries as a whole, has probably never been more well-rounded than it ever has been now. So we thank the Most High for that. But of course, as Yah is gathering His people in these end days, we're going to have people coming in, and we just have to learn to always be prepared to get out of our so-called comfort zones and take up for each other, to bring each other to edification and to help establish the balance again, if I can use them terms. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 14. 14 through 18. 1 Corinthians 12, 14 through 18. For the body is not one member, but many, because it isn't just, we're no islands by ourselves. It's not just one person running the whole show. It takes everybody. The body consists of many. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? Of course not, it is. If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? So everybody has a particular role. Stay in your place, perform that role, and by doing so, you actually create a quicker balance. Verse 18, but then now hath Yah set the members, every one of them. Who set the members? Yah did. He placed everybody where they need to be. Every one of them in the body as it hath pleased Him, because the Father knows He does a perfect work. He knows whoever He's bringing into the assembly, whoever He's awakening, whoever He enlightens, brings the truth to, the world term saves. People are fresh and not really sure, but Yah already knows where you need to be. Like the Bible says, and Solomon said, a man's gift makes room for himself. Just continue to be a help, to be edification of the body, and you'll find out where your place is. But it's when people decide that they believe themselves to have a certain gift, and they might, but they want to make room for themselves. They create this big, huge imbalance, this schism, this uneasy measure that is felt by the entire body. So stay in your place, and if you have a gift, Yah will make room for you. The Most High is the one which sets in order His body of saints, His nation of Israel, to establish who His people are as He pleases. Everyone has a place in the body in whatever capacity they are called. And I kind of went over that already a little bit. So 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 1 and 2, and then chapter 5, verse 14. So verses 1, 2, Brother Ugly, and then verse 14. All right, Paul's instruction to Timothy is, rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men as brethren. These are all instructions on how to maintain a just balance in Israel. If you actually perform what is written, it will maintain, because the word is truth, it's right, and because all it has to do is be believed, it automatically by default brings the right balance. So rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger men as brethren, the elder women as mothers, the younger as sisters, with all purity. In what sense? With all purity. Verse 14, I will therefore that the younger women, this is instruction, how to keep the balance, marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to adversary to speak reproachfully. If you go outside the bound of what is written, you bring a misbalance or unequalness to the scales, and then that has to be, at some point that has to be brought back into balance again, and a lot of times that's a reproof or rebuke or just removing people from the body and replacing it with something that's able to justly deal its measure. Oh, what did I just do? Well, there it is. Anyway, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 12 through 15. 1 Timothy 2, 12 through 15. Again, balance, providing balance, a just balance, Yah's balance. That's why he wrote these words. But I suffer not, or that is, I allow not a woman to teach, nor usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. Notwithstanding, she will be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. Now, I've never, I want to say have the pleasure, but the mispleasure, the unpleasantness of actually seeing a woman preacher before, actually sitting underneath a woman preacher. Boy, I tell you what, on this side, understanding how significant these words are, boy, that'd be rough. I mean, just to be able to sit there and have to watch that or do that, ain't no way. Anyway, the book of Job, chapter 31, verses 4 through 6. Job 31, 4 through 6. Remember, this is establishing a just balance in the body, how to keep a just balance in the body. If you think about it, because if you got your body naturally, and some people get problems in their ears, they get an imbalance, you can't successfully navigate, you can't perform your duties through the day, you can't be efficient and work together for greater accomplishments because your body physically isn't acting right. And until your body actually, natural body, gets restored back to its right balance again, then you can start to be more efficient and be, in good health and good understanding. So, first that which is natural, then that which is spiritual. Okay, verse 4, doth he not see my ways and count all my steps? This is Job recounting what Yah, he thinks about Yah. If I have walked with vanity, or if my foot hath hasted to deceit, let me be weighed in an even balance, that Yah may know mine integrity. Remember, Job says an even balance, something that isn't slanted all the way one side already, that would even cause him more problems, something that, because of Yah's balance, because of Yah's word, because he doesn't go to the left or the right, that Job's judgment, or his accountability comes from Yah, who, of course, is of just balance. All right, let me see. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 34 through 37. Man, I'm flying along here now. Whew. All right, Leviticus 19, 34 through 37. Talking about, again, a balance, having a balance in the assembly, in the body of Christ. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself. If you were strangers in the land of Egypt, I am Yahweh the Elohim. Because, of course, instructions for somebody new coming in. You love him as yourself and as you do each other in the body. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment, in meat yard, in weight, or in measure. Amazing how this is. This is the first instruction after Yah's talking about when the stranger comes in. Just balances, just weights, and a just ephah, and a just hin shall you have. I am Yahweh the Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe all my statutes and all my judgments and do them. I am Yahweh the Elohim. And of course, as representatives of the king, to do things by wickedly and out of order, by false witness, or whatever the case may be, presenting an unrighteous and unjust balance, because as representatives of Yah, these strangers coming in are going to see this and wonder, man, I just left something like that. What am I getting back into? So, and believe me, if somebody acts in this manner and misrepresents the kingdom by these unjust balances and weights, whatever that may be, and that can go in your speech, in your actions, physically. I mean, if somebody buys something for $8 and give you 10, and you only give them back $1, anything like that. You can just about use any thing to demonstrate this, but the fact of the matter is, Yah said this is how important it is when these new people that you present as yourself as honest men, as presentable men, because again, you're representatives, ambassadors for me, and I don't want to be misrepresented because this isn't my character. That's what Yah is saying. All right, balance in the home and in the family. And we are plugging right along here. All right, let me see what time it is. I may take a break here. Yeah, we're going to take a ministry break as soon as I get to the other page, and I'll get a drink of water, do whatever the case may be, and we'll be right back.
Shalom, this is Sister Wenda. I hope that all of you are enjoying this particular broadcast that you're listening to right now. We really appreciate each and every last one of you, our faithful listeners and supporters of the Straitway Truth Radio broadcast. We try to make sure we do our best to ensure that you have the best broadcast as well as the truth coming to you in the hour that we're living in right now. If you'd like to help us in this endeavor, your offering will be greatly appreciated in the work of the ministry of the Most High Yah. Our mailing address for your gift, offering, or letter of support is Pastor Charles Dowell, Jr. That's Pastor Charles Dowell, Jr., 632 Highway 52, Bypass West. That's 632 Highway 52, Bypass West, PMB number 1, Lafayette, Tennessee. And Lafayette is spelled Lafayette, Tennessee, 37083. If you would like to contact us by way of phone, the country code is 1, area code 615-688-3025. You may leave a message there, and be the Father's will, we will do whatever we can to return your message. It is our hope and our prayer that as you continue to listen to the Straitway Truth Ministry, and as you apply the teachings of this ministry, that you are finding peace and growth within you, your family, and life as well. And do please tell others so that the truth may also have an impact and touch others' lives, so that they may enjoy the benefits of the truth of Jesus Christ, just like we all are. Shalom, the King is coming.
Yes, the King is coming. I always like what Sister Wenda says in there. If you apply these things, if you actually take conscious effort and actually active in applying these things that you heard from this ministry, it'll sow seeds of peace. Hallelujah. Anyway. All right, continuing on, talking about balances or having a just balance, because, of course, Yah hates a false balance. So how do we create and stay in a just and equal balance? All right, now we're continuing on to balance in the home and in the family. And, every time I read one of these scriptures or one of these verses in here, all we have to do is be obedient, exercise a will to keep whatever the instruction is that is written, and by default it creates a just balance because of the words of the Most High. He's not going to write something that for our benefit and then allow us to fall into a false balance. All right, Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. Way back in the way beginning. Let me get back in the chat room here. All right, hallelujah. All right, Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. And unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrows and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. This was the, quote, curse that was pronounced by Yah against Eve, or the woman, because she fell in transgression. And thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Way back there in the beginning, Yah established protocol in the family, the relationship between the husband and wife, man and woman, Thy desire shall be to thy husband, he shall do what? Rule over thee. And if you want some extracurricular activity, go back and look behind that word desire. Very interesting. In fact, I'm doing a very lengthy study on this, and I was quite surprised at some of the stuff I ran across, but I'll share that down the line. Again, talking about the balance in the home and in the family. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 3, and then 8 and 9. So that's 1 Corinthians 11, 3, and then 8 and 9. But I would have you to know, well, who's Paul talking to? He's talking about the assembly, the body. But I would have you to know that the head of every man, okay, here's the order, is Christ, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Christ is Yah. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man. Neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. Again, establishing the order, establishing the proper balance in the family structure. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 through 25. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 through 25. And starting in verse 22, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto Yahweh. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as, here's the comparison, as Christ is the head of the church. So we have the representative of the husband and the bride, or the wife. Even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. All right. Christ gave himself for the assembly, for Israel, and he left for us an example how this act of selflessness must pass down through the family. Now, I'm going to have a little digression here, but it's still talking about maintaining the right, proper balance in the structure that Yah created is the family unit. Okay? He left us an example of how this act of selflessness must pass down through the family. The women of today have not been conditioned, and they have been re-educated to not see that they need, quote, need a man, and that they do not need a man to take care of them, whether this is the father to the daughter relationship or the wife to the husband relationship. A woman must be joined to or be a part of, I mean, that's what that's talking about, joined to, some male figure, whether it be in Christ, in the husband, or in their father. Like Pastor said, they're taken care of from cradle to grave, but they're always under authority in order to be whole or balanced in the eyes of Yah. Genesis 3:16 tells us that the woman's desire, which is her longing, shall be to her husband, the one which shall rule over or have the authority over her. As is so clearly illustrated in Isaiah 3 and 4, is how the daughter of Zion had lost the longing, the desire, and the need for the man and rebelled against basically their image. Anytime a woman resists the man or rises against the man, the one whom Yah placed over the woman, she is actively involved in detesting her image. The woman did not come out of the man to rebel against the man. The woman did come out of the man, and to rebel against the man, is to despise the image she was created in, and more importantly, the one in whom created man in his image. So ultimately, if a woman is in rebellion against her husband, she is in direct rebellion against Yah. Likewise, the man, he has lost the need to take care of the woman. There is more than an ample enough proof of this. How many times a day have we have the no father, no husband scenario? You know, you have this male generation. They're all about making babies, but that's as far as it goes. The woman was only needed as a means of sexual gratification, then the man bailed. In fact, from all appearance, this need is slowly disappearing, as of course now you're getting replaced by the homosexual agenda. And of course, I got it in my side notes here that this is also going to be a trait of the man of sin, as it's talked about in Daniel 11:37, when he's not going to have the desire for women. So that's just, expounding on this homosexual movement. But anyway, so far what we're talking about here in my little article, or my little paragraph right here, is the fact that because women have been conditioned not to believe that they need a man anymore, or a man really need a woman, if we bring that over into try to bring that over into us as Hebrew Israelites, who was Yah's chosen people, that automatically creates an imbalance, and we're going to have problems in the house. Both male and female no longer understand the necessity of the balance obtained by staying in the roles Yah gave to them, and what it is to have a place which provides selflessness, sacrifice, and fulfillment. When one is needy or in need, they recognize they are lacking necessities. They're destitute, in poverty to both spiritual and material needs. That's part of being needy. The whole of the family structure is based on need. The child needs the parent, the wife needs the husband, and the husband needs Yah. Remove the knowledge of being needed, and you have successfully ushered in confusion and disorder. This is why we must come to a place in our lives when we fully get, and I'm using the word G-E-T, get, comprehend that the Father loves us no matter what appears to have befallen us. No matter the trials or perceived hardships we have to go through, we must be fully persuaded that the Most High loves us, and we must get it, and have an acknowledgement that leaves no room for doubt that we are always in need of the Father. This is what creates that spiritual balance. The Bible tells us that first that which is natural and then that which is spiritual. So the wives of a husband must, as we must with the Father, get or understand that their husbands love them just as Christ loved the assembly and gave himself for it. The wives of the husbands must learn to trust their husbands, to understand the need that must exist between them, and the wives must also come to an acknowledgement and an appreciation for the man which is covering them, even in the midst of whatever situation, circumstances life may throw at them. So I said all that to say that, as I already said, that we've been created to be in a certain place, not only within the assembly, but also within the family structure and the patriarchal order of things, and in the biblical familyhood. And any time that we negate or go away from the roles that Yah has placed us in, of course, that creates that friction, that imbalance, that inequality in the house. So if you women, children, you want equality, you men, everybody stay in the places where they were created for, and always, once you don't ever lose that need, that neediness, that children, you need the parents because they're the ones that supply your needs, and wives, you know, your need for the husbands because they're the ones that are designed to give you the things that Yah commanded: food, the clothing, the provisions, security, safety, that sort of thing. And of course, the men, if they're the priests of their homes, they should always longing in their heart to need the Most High, to need His instruction, to need His understanding, to best be a wise priest to their home. All right, Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1 through 5. Ephesians 6, 1 through 5. Again, the structure and the order to create a good balance. Yah's instruction here by the voice of Paul. Children, obey your parents in the Most High, for this is right. To obey your parents, boys and girls, is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that thou that it may be well with thee, thou mayest live long in the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Most High. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling and singleness of your heart, as unto Christ. Again, all words of wisdom, how to keep everybody happy, so to speak, and how to keep the Most High happy with His people. 1 Timothy 6, verse 1 and 2. And again, this is Paul's words to Timothy. Let as many servants as are under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor, that the name of Yah and His doctrine be not blasphemed. And they that have believing masters, let them not despise them, because they are brethren, but rather do them service, because they are faithful and beloved, partakers of the benefit these things teach and exhort. Again, the proper instruction in the home and in the assembly, and in the family. All right, let me see. Did I just... Whoops. Throw away one page too many. All right, now we're going to go on to balance and giving. In giving, balance, having a just balance, a right balance in giving. So let me see, we've covered balance in work, your time with the Most High, in the family structure, in the assembly, in the body itself, in your words. Now we're going on to balance in giving. Luke chapter 6, verse 38. Luke chapter 6, verse 38. And the Messiah says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." This is a spiritual law and a spiritual promise. "Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give into your bosoms. For with the same measure that you mete withal, it shall be measured to you again." So if you're only going to give, let's say 10% effort on a daily job where you're working on something, everybody else is given, because they're doing it for the Most High, but you got one slacker, one sluggard doing it for 10%, well, that's the only gain he's going to get back, if even that much is 10% of the benefit of the reward, where everybody else will receive the full benefit and reward for their labors. Okay, just 10% is equality with Yah. This is the way he established this. This is the balance he found right in the beginning with the Levirate law to give to the Levites, the tribe of Levi, just 10% of the tithe. Yah was telling, this is enough to satisfy the balance that I demand in what the distribution is to the Levites. So why do so many have unequal ways about giving even that amount? Because it's already been established that this is a justified, accountable balance by the Most High. But of course we have those that can't even usher in or can't even propel themselves to even offer 10% of their goods for the labors and the truth that they hear coming from this ministry, and that's a sad situation. But Yah already established that itself way back then as a just and fair balance. And of course, our testimony is always in our giving, how much we give. That's what one of the ways people are going to remember is how much we labor, how much we gave, not only in the material, but in the physical, but whatever the case may be, as long as it's in the mode of giving. Malachi chapter 3, verses 6. Let me see. Chapter 3, verses 6 through 9. "For I am Yahweh, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers you have gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Yahweh the Elohim, Yah of hosts. But you said, wherein shall we return?" Man, what a crazy question. Where are we going to go back to? What, like going back underneath the law, statutes, and commandments, the things that are just, holy, and good? And then he says in verse 8, "Will a man rob Yah? Yet you have robbed me." Well, how have these people robbed the Most High? How have our people, Israel, as it was written, how did they rob the Most High? "But you say, wherein have we robbed thee?" In what? The conclusion, simple, in tithes and offerings. And that simple giving of yourself, even up to the tithe of the 10%, or in whatever the offerings, the free will offerings might be. Actually, to withhold your hand from these things and doing these things is actually robbery in the sight of the Most High. You have an unequal balance in the nation of Israel. You are cursed with a curse. This is the end of the stinginess, of this disregard, this lack of thankfulness for what Yah is doing, because to give to your offerings and your tithes and your goodwill gifts is because you're appreciating that the Father is sending you men, anointed men, that have the word of truth, that are speaking the words of life, that are actually helping take you out of this. It's like when somebody comes and bails you, if you get thrown in prison, right? If you ever had been such in the instance where you've been, for whatever reason, got hauled off to jail, and you're thrown in jail, man, when you see that guy coming with the bail bond, you're like, man, I get to get out, you know what I'm talking about? So you can be thankful for that, so you should be able to relate to the simple fact that what it means to give your appreciation for what the truth is doing in your life. All right, I'm going to use the Scriptures version first here, Brother Ugly, and then the King James version. This is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 24 through 26, because they read both a little bit different. I think that the Scriptures version is probably a little bit clearer. Proverbs 11, 24 through 26 in the Scriptures version. There is one who scatters yet increases more, and one who withholds more than is right. But it comes to poverty. What? The one that withholds more. The generous being is enriched, and he who waters is also watered himself. The people curse him who withhold grain, but blessing is on the head of him who sells it. So look, this is just another example of the people that willingly give. I mean, the one who's scattering, he's going to increase more because he's going to see what his increase does more for others. But the ones that stingy, withhold it to himself, only is concerned about himself, well, that same measure is going to get met back to him again. In his time of trial and tribulation and suffering, he's not going to be able to partake of the increase because he's going to be in his own wicked way. All right, the King James Version, Proverbs 11, 24 through 26. There is that scattereth yet increases, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but is tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat. And of course, the Scriptures was the generous being is enriched. And he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withhold the corn, the people shall curse, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth. All right, Mark chapter 12, verses 41 through 44. Mark 12, 41 through 44. And Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. So the Messiah is not only observing this because he already knows the hearts of men and their intent, but he's got an audience around him, so he's about ready to expound on them what they probably ain't even paying attention to because it's become the norm. He's going to open it up a little bit, a whole lot, to help them see the hypocrisy. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he called unto him his disciples, and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, that this poor woman hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in of their abundance. So they were never going to be without loss. They're always counting on being on the side of their own self-worth, their own self-safety. You know, it's all about me. But she did of her want cast in all that she had, even all her living. I mean, what kind of trust is this? She gave everything. She gave everything to the treasury, to the ministry, as we can call it today, for the temple treasury back then, so they could take care of the needs and the upkeep and just keeping everything nice and presentable inside the temple environment there. And that's where her heart was. Her heart was in the kingdom, but the rest of these, show players and these hypocrites, they just gave enough to the appearance that they were actually part of it. But Yah hates a false balance. All right, and hey, that's where we're going to. We're going to end up on how we started. Yah hates a false balance. Talking about that, that's how we're going to end this up. Yah hates a false balance. 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 14 through 18. And these are all things that Yah hates in relationship to being unbalanced. Verse 14, But be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with dark? What can a righteous person, what can a believer actually seek to gain? What benefit is it for him and for the body of Christ to be yoked together with somebody that's an unbeliever? Well, there isn't. You can never balance a scale having a believer and unbeliever being yoked together. That's just not possible. The only way you can balance it is having 2 believers who believe the same thing, have the same Father, have the same goals, the same agenda, are both striving for holiness and righteousness. That's the only way to balance the scales. But being yoked together, being enjoined, being tethered together with unbelievers, it's an impossibility. What concord hath Christ with Belial? Or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? What part is it? What part do you have? What possible gain is there? And what agreement hath the temple of Yah with idols? For ye are the temple of living Yah, and as Yah hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their Yah, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahweh, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. And I will be father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahweh the Elohim, Yahweh the Almighty. All right, the word proves that Yah doles out judgment and punishment in a just and perfect balance. All right, Ezekiel chapter 5, verses 1 through 4. Ezekiel 5, 1 through 4. And thou, son of man, take thee a sharp knife. This is Yah talking to Ezekiel the prophet. Take thee a sharp knife, take thee a barber's razor, and cause it to pass upon thy hand and upon thy beard. Then take thee balances to weigh and divide the hair. So he's going to take this hair that he just cut off, and he's going to balance it out on the scale, equal parts. So there's going to be equal parts of destruction and judgment. This is how Yah is even balanced in passing judgment and exacting punishment and destruction upon the wicked. He does even this in a balanced manner. Thou shalt burn with the fire a third part in the midst of the city when the days of the siege are fulfilled, and thou shalt take a third part and smite about it with a knife, and a third part thou shalt scatter in the wind, and thou wilt draw a sword after them. Thou shalt also take thereof a few in number, and bind them in thy skirts. Then take of them again, and cast them in the midst of the fire, and burn them in the fire, for thereof thou shall a fire come forth into all the house of Israel. All right, we're just about finished here. Let me see. Let me see. All right, back still in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33. Ezekiel 33, 14 through 20. And it's amazing, these particular scriptures I'm about to read, I think they're actually, if I remember, they're repeated 3 times in the book of Ezekiel. 2 for sure, I think 3. I think once in chapter 13 also, and I don't remember where else, but maybe it is only twice. But again, Ezekiel 33, 14 through 20. Again, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, if he turn from his sin and do that which is lawful and right. If the wicked restore the pledge, give again that he hath robbed, walk in the statutes of life. Walk in the statutes of life without committing iniquity, he shall surely live, he shall not die. None of his sins that he hath committed shall be mentioned unto him. He hath done that which is lawful and right, he shall surely live. Yet the children of the people say the way of Yah is not equal, but as for them, their way is not equal. So they're trying to turn it back on Yah like he's the one at fault here. When the righteous turn, because what they're seeing here is they're seeing that the wicked people actually can receive justification, and these things won't be mentioned again, but they're actually saying that Yah is actually justifying the wicked in their wickedness. So they're actually calling his ways unequal. When the righteous turneth from his righteousness and committeth iniquity, he shall even die thereby. But if the wicked turn from his wickedness and do that which is lawful and right, he shall live thereby. Yet you say, the way of Yahweh is not equal, O ye house of Israel. I will judge you, everyone after his ways, after the way he thinks, after the way he perceives, after the judgments of their own mouth. Let me see. We are very judgmental people. Men look after and make judgments based on outward appearances and believe they are justified thereby. However, Yah judges men after the thoughts and the intents of a man's heart. Of course, we just went on. Israel is accusing Yah for being unjust in his regards, how to reward the wicked and the just alike returning or not turning away from wickedness. And that's just my notes. We already went over that a little bit, so you know what I'm talking about. And I think the last thing we're going to cover is go to Hosea chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. And again, we're talking about how Yah hates a false balance and demonstrations, and where this is portrayed. Hosea 12, chapter 12, verse 1, and then 7 and 8. So verse 1 and then verse 7 and 8. Ephraim feedeth on the wind, and followeth after the east wind. He daily increaseth lies and desolation. They do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. So who's the topic here? Ephraim. And in verse 7, he is a merchant. This is his occupation. This is how he established himself, makes his living. And the balances of deceit are in his hand. He loveth to oppress. So if you have somebody practicing deceitful balances, putting on false presentations, representing something falsely, the reason is for oppression. And Ephraim said, Yet I am become rich, and I have found me out substance. In all my labors they shall find none iniquity in me that were sin. So being deceived the whole time, they're thinking that it's right, it's just, it's acceptable to get unjust gain by trickery and forgery, using a false balance. But of course, Yah always pays that back. Amos chapter 8, Amos 8, 1 through 7. Thus hath Yahweh the Elohim showed unto me, and behold, a basket of summer fruits. And he said unto Amos, What seest thou? And I said, A basket of summer fruit. Then said Yahweh unto me, The end is come upon my people Israel. I will not again pass by them any more. And the songs of the temple shall be howlings in that day, saith Yahweh the Elohim. There shall be many dead bodies in every place. They shall cast them forth with silence. Hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land to fail, saying, When will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small, and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit? This is all for unjust, unlawful, wicked gain. All of it, even in and among the body of Christ, the saints of Israel, that we buy for the poor silver and needy for pair of shoes, yea, and sell the refuse of the wheat. You know, these wicked devils are going to bring the poor and needy into bondage by way of deceit. The trickery and deceit, this is something I got in my notes here, I thought it was kind of comical. The trickery and deceit of the Federal Reserve banking system did not start in the 1930s, but as we read the blueprint for bringing men into slavery by way of financial deceit, came thousands of years before. I thought it was pretty clever with that, but anyway. That's when Federal Reserve banking started. Way back then, they just gave it a proper name back here in the 1930s or whenever. Anyway, verse 7, And Yahweh has sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. All right, one extra point of study. And believe me, I'm no expert on this. I do enjoy this part of it, but it's on the... I thought it important to talk about because it's one of the seals that's broken, and the first four seals, which carry the first four horsemen, and what they do on the backs of these horses. But we're going to cover Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, and just some observations that I've come to over the years, and I'm sure it goes a lot deeper, and I really didn't get all detailed because I just pulled it off of another study I have at home, but it's just some things to reflect on and consider. And the thing about it is the Most High is going to use the demonstration of balances or scales, making things equal as a form of judgment on this earth and in these coming times. All right, Revelation chapter 6, verses 5 and then 6. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see, and behold, and I beheld a low black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Remember, balances are nothing more than scales. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Well, we're going to find out something interesting about this word hurt, this English word hurt, and the real definition behind it. So the word hurt is the Greek 91, and it's from the Greek 94, and it means to be unjust. That is, actively do wrong, morally, socially, or physically, hurt, injure, to be an offender, be unjust. So basically, see that thou be not unjust. with the oil and the wine. Not about actually physically damaging it or spiritually damaging it. What if it's just not to be unjust, because we're talking about in relationship to a pair of balances or a scale. So don't be unjust when you're dealing with the oil and the wine. And it was from the Greek 94, which is from the Greek 1 as a negative participle. Unjust, by extension, wicked, by implication, treacherous, specifically heathen, unjust, unrighteous. Here's some of my notes. The rider of the third seal sat upon a black horse, and he carried a pair of balances in his hand. The pair of balances was for the weighing out of food for money, as it's demonstrated in these two verses. These are the actions of buying and selling, not bartering or trading. So there's actually an exchange, a medium going on here between currency and goods, which is significant. Revelations 13:17 tells us that no man would be able to buy or sell save those which carried the mark of the beast, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So for this cause, I think Pastor even mentioned that again today, Revelation 13:17. All the food items described in the 6th verse were those items which were part of the normal daily food fare of that time period, such as eggs, milk, butter, and bread are all counted as daily fare at this present time. What is also have detailed is that the third horseman is instructed not to be unjust or unbalanced with the oil and the wine. And this is likely because items such as these would have carried a higher value and a greater demand. And of course, oil also has its benefits, as we understand nowadays, for heat, light, other things like that. But the fact is, it was commanded this horseman to not be unjust with the oil and the wine. Some suggest that the penny represents a day's wages, such as it was spoken of by the Messiah in the parables. And in all probability, this may just be the case. But the prophet Ezra, in the book of 2nd Esdras, details that food, as the term they use in there is victuals, would be plentiful and cheap. Again, this course lends itself more towards the idea that though food will be cheap and plentiful, the only ones which will be allowed to purchase it will be those in league and in line with the last Antichrist beast system. It is also highly probable that this horseman had the power to cause famine and hunger in order to manipulate the global food markets and keep control of the global scales, or the distribution of food. This does agree with the New World Order's plan to reduce the global population under the guise of Agenda 21. Reduce the population. This will provide more cheap food at cheaper cost to those which are deemed worthy of life, or those that are allowed to be preserved. All right, Matthew chapter 24, quickly before we end the study out. Matthew chapter 24, verses 7 and 8. For nation shall rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. So it's not going to be a maybe, if, and, or possibly, but there will be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So when the beginning of sorrows really comes in on a global scale, we're going to see global famines, global pestilences. We're already seeing the earthquakes and in many places. All right, 2nd Esdras, chapter 16, verses 17 through 22. In the Apocrypha. Ezra 16, 17 through 22. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? Because it's going to be that bad. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars and powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. How is this the beginning of evils? Evil's been with us for thousands since the beginning, but they're actually calling this the beginning of evil. It's because of the magnitude and the scale that it's going to be on. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation, anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Remember, these are things that possibly that rider on the black horse, the one with the scales, is going to be responsible for, this famine. Behold, famine and plague and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, even though there's going to be this huge amount of supply of food, and it's going to be cheap to buy. There's still going to be numbers, thousands, millions, billions dying because of famine. And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So those that are chosen by the powers that be in this world will be the ones that will be allowed to continue to buy the food cheaply, but actually be supplied, and the rest that, for whatever reason, are going to perish by the famine. And of course, like another note, the color black, the color of the horse is often associated with famine, as the scripture warns us, Lamentations 5, chapter 10. Our skin was black like an oven because of the terrible famine. So it describes the condition that happens to a man's body because of famine. Anyway, that's the end, the conclusion of this balances study. I do hope that it was something that was able to feed your spirit and your soul, that you could take something with it. But again, Yah hates a false balance, and so that's something that because he hates it, it's something that we should despise and press to always stay in a right and a just balance. And that whole Bible, just being by obedient to the Word, keeps you there and gives you well-balanced, spiritually healthy, and probably physically healthy life. Anyway, appreciate you all joining me tonight for the conclusion, part 2 of this. And of course, keep all those that are traveling to God lifted up in prayer for safety in travels, and for us here that things go well, that the devil and his influence or his encroachment be kept at bay, because we are expecting some new saints as well as some familiar faces, and anytime we get together, the saints, in unity and strength, and of course the devil hates that. He hates the unity, the oneness that the saints developed and that Israel developed. He wants to keep us divided and separated. So each one of these events are significant, especially the feast days. And of course, that's coming here in very short order. In fact, I believe trumpets, if I'm correct, the Feast of Trumpets, the Day of Trumpets, the Memorial of Trumpets is September 13th, and that's right around the corner. The summer is just flying by, and then, of course, we just fall right into the fall feast and the feast that end this season in Israel. So, of course, I know everybody's been those that have a desire to come to Feast of Tabernacles are making the arrangements now and doing what is going to be required so they can get here and fellowship and rejoice in the blessed Feast of Tabernacles. But with that, y'all please keep Pastor Dowell lifted up in prayer always, as he and of course the elders and each other. But when I say pastor, mainly because of the magnitude of what he has in front of him. But Yah's not going to put on anything more than he can bear. That's a scriptural promise, but sometimes there's a lot going on and a lot of different things to consider, take care of. So, pray for pastor's strength, and that Most High would give him utterance as well as the ministering brother. Well, it was a pleasure and an honor to have you all in the room tonight. I thank you, and you all have a blessed week. Keep each other lifted up in prayer, and keep your eyes and ears open that you not allow yourself to fall into a false balance, which Yah hates. But anyway, bless you all. The King is coming. Shalom.
Uh-oh. Look at